So, welcome tonight. We are here with
Matan.
Matan Field. Field or Fields?
Field.
Field. Matan is from Lazuz. It's a very interesting project or company. We're going to talk about that later. So maybe you can introduce yourself a little bit more and tell us what this project is about.
Okay, very well. Firstly, thank for this interview. It's a great pleasure. My background is actually from theoretical physics. I've done my PhD and postdoctoral research in theoretical abstract physics, string theory, if you haven't heard.
Yeah.
And back then, at the end of 2013, I've started together with two friends this idea of making reality real-time ride sharing.
Mm-hmm. So real-time ride sharing.
Right, real-time ride sharing.
Which means that
that people can freely just share their rides on the go. Mm-hmm. So real time means that you don't need to plan anything ahead. You just click a button and 2 minutes later a car can stop by and you can go with it to your destination.
So I have an app, I click on I want to have a ride.
Right, exactly. Just say I want to get from point A to point B. Maybe there's a car just passing by from point A to point C, and then with a multi-hop solution you'll just get right away to your destination. That's real time. And ride sharing means that it's not a commercial drive. You simply share the ride and also share the cost of drive. Right. So that's ride sharing. And yeah, so far that was not established anywhere. Mm-hmm. And back then we looked at it and said, well, we want to make it happen. And that's was the beginning of the story.
And that came from a personal need, or it was a thought concept, or?
Right. So yeah, I actually just came back from my postdoctoral research in India back then, and purchased my first smartphone.
Right.
I actually was purchasing the smartphone to enable Waze. You know Waze?
Yep.
So I was really excited about Waze. And then I just started thinking, as a physicist, how can I improve the system of Waze? And suddenly it struck me that you can do much more than just improving Waze. You can build whole new platforms on this infrastructure of people who already are connected. And can in real time can manipulate or help them make better transportation system.
All right.
And that's then just struck just kind of immediately clear that you can do real time ride sharing as a starter, but even much more than that.
Right. So does it use Waze as an infrastructure?
No. So we haven't started from there. We've started independently. Of course, it's a natural way to go to, but and it may lead there some point, but right now it's completely independent from Waze.
Okay. So how does it work?
So it's still not doesn't work. There is a long way to go, and I think it's actually will happen sooner than expected. But you have to understand that for years, already from 2007, actually, companies and actually that fundraised pretty large money tried to establish real-time ride sharing, and none of them have succeeded until this very day. Including, for example, Karma ride-sharing app, which fundraised $10 million and worked for 7 years, and they have very nice app, and it doesn't work. So already from the beginning, we understood that there is a serious problem that just doesn't let it work, and it was quite clear that the most serious problem is the chicken and egg problem.
Right.
That you need to somehow raise the critical mass of users before you can offer any service. So how do you make users use a non-working service?
So how do you do that?
Right. So, well, I think we kind of was affected. We've done that in Israel, which is a very small country, and roughly everybody knows each other. I mean, it's very easy. Whoever you meet in the street, you can just in 3 minutes you can find a common friend with him. Right. So we said, well, it's not a big deal. We need how many? We need, let's say, 100,000 people in this, specific region to form a critical mass.
Right.
So let's just make project with 100,000 partners.
All right.
That's simple, right? If we have 100,000 partners, they will all open the app at the right time, at the right place, and just start ride sharing.
Okay.
So that was the first idea.
Right.
And then, this very simple, naive question actually opened as big as you can imagine a door.
Right.
Or a window, and then many questions then followed, because then you say, okay, but now we have 100,000 partners, so each of them contribute differently. So how do we decide how much to reward each of them? and how do we actually reward them with what? Like, and then we say, okay, it should
And
be
is there a need to reward them? That's the first question.
right.
I suppose.
If there is a need, but that I think that was the main direction or main incentive, saying that the way to make them partners is by giving them some sort of reward. Now, reward is not only for the actually cash or value for it in terms of cash, but also I think it's even more in terms of feeling. Like
could be karma, right?
Karma. They are not. I mean, in the sense that they are not feeling used by an external force, but they are rather feeling partners.
Right.
And that's a completely big change, a shift of paradigm, which I think makes the big difference. Because people, I think, quite had enough of the current business model where companies are eventually use the users for their own interests, and which are inherently disaligned. So eventually, in the existing model, there is a company. The company has shareholders. It offers a service to its users, and eventually, the interests of shareholders and the interests of users can never align.
No.
Simply that. So it's not a sustainable model where things can just go to the place where everyone are happy. And that's inherent in the system. So here, it opened the door for a completely new model where actually you have no clear distinction between, let's say, investor, founder, developer, early adopter, users. It's just a spectrum, a continuous spectrum on which you can contribute whatever you want and be partner with whatever you want and be owner also with whatever you want and also get a reward in accordance.
But still you needed to have all these people that had cars or were willing to take a ride or needed to take a ride, and you still need to convince these people to join either with a car or and share that they have a place in their car, and other people to install the app and use the app and actually think about, okay, I'm going to use the app now for this ride and not take the bus or take my own car. So how do you get through this? There's also some sort of a chicken and egg situation. So how do you get through that?
Right. So I should mention that at that point we understood that there is some relation to the Bitcoin space, crypto tokens as carrying value. And then we got more familiar with this space and found out that the whole model that we were speaking of was born in parallel in the other spot of the world. And this was just like a perfect wedding.
Right.
And this model was called back then decentralized autonomous organization.
Right.
And then from there it was just like a boom, and we just dived really, really deep into those ideas. And from there we try to develop them much further into the next step of decentralized organization. So the idea in this model, roughly, very shortly, the idea is that you establish some sort of internal economical value or internal economy for a group of people that is gathered around a vision or a task or a service or a product that they want to establish. Now, in many such services, there is this critical mass problem,
right?
Which is the same. Well, I mean, it's the same problem in different disguise,
right?
So how do you overcome this problem? So you issue a token, this kind of which carries that value. You can think of this token as a voucher,
right?
And then you form a distribution protocol, a set of rules, which basically mathematically manifests the statement that whoever contributes to the final goal is being rewarded by the community in accordance to its value of the contribution. So that's the idea behind this model. And also, the sooner you are contributing, the more risk you're making, because the success of this project is further away. So the more risk you're putting out, the more stake you have, thus you should be rewarded more.
Right. So the early adopters are rewarded more than people that are laggards. So
exactly.
Use the service in a later stage.
Right, and that's holds for everyone. So it holds for those who purchase the tokens. It holds for those who contribute development tasks. It holds for early adopters and then users. So by this model, you understand that by being there early, it's true, you are risking more, but you can also gain more. And that's kind of generating a snowball effect. And that's one thing. The second thing is that it really calls for a completely new way of thinking, because people, companies speak about marketing, for example. But here, there is no, the notion of marketing is completely different, because here, when we talk with people, we're not telling them we are offering you a service and you will pay for us. There is no we, there is no us.
No.
We can do that together, and the reaction of people to that kind of line of thought is completely different. They become themselves the marketers. We don't need to market to them. They are the marketers.
Right.
They are the promoters.
Sure.
And so this is really generating a snowball effect. And
that's what you hope. But then again, when I install the app and I'm the only one in this country, maybe I might gather some tokens, but still I don't have much incentive to use it, or I have no opportunity to use it. So how do I become a marketer of that?
Right.
Because
so
I need proof that it works. I need to be enthusiastic about it by showing it off. So I need to have something to share.
That's true.
It's also a bit of a chicken and egg situation, and that's usually it's when marketeers have a budget to solve that.
That's true. But so let me tell you firstly where is the value comes in, and also then how it unfolds. So firstly, as I said, there is this distribution protocol, and early participants receive tokens for their participation. In our case, we call those ZOOS tokens. We can tell you later where the name comes from. And the more they proceed, the more the community grows, the more the value of their asset, so to say, is growing as well. Which is, in our case, comes about in a completely different economy than what is, by the way, used in Bitcoin, for example. We have engineered a completely different economy for that. We can discuss that as well. So,
but there's still this chicken and egg situation. I still have to be convinced that it will increase in value over time. Because if I'm not confident this project is going to succeed, and if I'm not going to be able to share it with friends because nobody else is using it, for instance, and I still have not much incentive to really go through with it or broadcast it.
But those same ZOOS tokens will be later served to purchase the service when it's established. Then that will gain them value.
It's when or if it's established. So that
now, it's true that now you are risking, and just what I say, there is, I think that's what solved the chicken egg problem. It's true, you are risking more because you don't know the project will succeed, but if you understand the mechanism.
But right now, I'm not risking anything. I just installed the app.
Well, you're risking your time and attention. You're right, it's a small risk. That's why people are doing that. Right. So it's a small risk. Maybe I should mention that we have released an app.
Right.
This app is not doing any ride sharing. You're just mining ZOOS tokens.
Right.
ZOOS mining app.
Yeah.
Now you can just download this app to your cell phone, to your smartphone. Right. Just keep it in the background, doing nothing. Just drive, ride, whatever, and you earn ZOOS tokens on the go. The more people install the app, the more ZOOS tokens are distributed. And once there is a critical mass of users in some specific location, then instantly ride sharing is enabled. Thus, in no instant, some users are disappointed to discover a non-working service. And that's the solution. It's true that not everyone are convinced that it will work from the beginning, just like what happened for the Bitcoin, for example. But those who understand that are willing to put 5% of their energy into that, with also the understanding that they might gain much more than that. And after the 5%, there's the next 5% of people who put the...
No, I totally believe that there's believers, but how do you go from believers? I mean, these believers need to have a story or the proof to share it with others. And if you don't have implemented the car sharing functionality yet when you start in a place, then the only thing you can share is show the app and says, yes, I'm harvesting or I'm making tokens now, and maybe someday in the future I profit from that. So how can people just really share this idea with others if they don't have anything to really show for?
Right. So this is still in development, but there are many solutions to that. Firstly, just simply by noticing that the community is growing, the number of users is constantly growing, the development is constantly growing, and so on.
So something
you see that it's actually happening.
Okay, yeah.
So that's one thing. Second thing, there are a lot of ways to entitle value already from day one, which is not ride sharing, but other values. For example, let me just give you a simple example. You can add a feature. You already have a network of, let's say, such and such people, which is not enough for ride sharing, but maybe it's enough for a different application. Let's say you have a city, and in this city the parking is very scarce. So let's say that as soon as user A or Dan, user Dan is leaving his parking space, immediately it reports to the network that there is a vacant place. And the next Lazuz user can just get in if he's just in the neighborhood. So that's, for example, just a very simple feature which gives you value already from day one to hold this app. Because the point is that you already have an infrastructure of users which you can build on and generate value. So there are many different directions. I'm just mentioning a few of them, but there are many different directions. But I think the essence is really the understanding of people, the mechanism, how it grows, and in parallel to let them see that it actually grows.
So is there any place in Israel already where you use it now? Is where the ride sharing is already working, or is it?
No, we are not yet in critical mass. Actually, in fact, we are not even trying to push the growth of the network because we don't have yet the ride sharing application ready. Okay. Right now we are not pushing much of development. We are mostly focused right now on opening the crowd sale, in which people could purchase Zuz tokens freely. That will also open our distribution protocol, which again generate a whole new economy, and in some sense will kickstart this decentralized organization. Maybe one thing to mention: there are many organizations who speak about decentralized applications, but themselves act as companies, regular companies. We kind of felt that we cannot do that. So we felt that we have to be decentralized from day one, although we still don't have the protocols ready or the infrastructure, technology, and so on. So we made some detours to enable a truly decentralized organization from day one.
But you are not a company, you are a project. You wanted to stress as well, right?
So we are also decentralized collaboration.
And do you use certain tokens to pay for certain expenses, like what happens usually with cryptocurrency, that you have a certain amount of cryptocurrency that is used for expenses for programmers and everything, is there no economic model?
There is a completely new economical model behind it, which is different than what you mentioned. For example, in our economical model, there is no fixed number of tokens in circulation. It's a free economy in that sense, and it resolves a lot of the problems that Bitcoin suffers from. It resolved the high volatility of the Bitcoin. It resolved a limited reward mechanism, which I can elaborate on more. And in that way, it generates a much more free economy, which can grow much faster and adopt much faster.
Is it something that you had in the back of your mind to create a platform that it's even that can use for many other things apart from ride sharing? Is it like an idealistic kind of thing?
Exactly. So basically, what we've done is that, well, I can talk just that for a long time, but basically the whole decentralized organization theory relies on three pillars. One of them is the technology, which, for example, Ethereum is one of the big players in that. Another one is the models, the protocols, the rules for how a community, an infinite community, can play together, can make decisions together, can reward each other together, and all that in a decentralized manner. And the third, and also have reputations for people. And the third pillar is the platform. So how do you communicate? So this platform is something like social network. Imagine Facebook, but a distributed Facebook. And then imagine that in this Facebook, not only you can open a group, you can also open a group of action. So you can open a group of, let's say, 100,000 people, and those people can collaborate and manage tasks and also reward each other within the group with tokens and all that within a social network. So this is what we call the platform. So we are nowadays, in parallel to putting up all those tools for Lazuz, we're trying to make them as generic as possible, so that eventually you have technology, protocols, and platform on top of which you can just now just like a Lego. You can now put your own decentralized organization in 2 hours, and then just the community itself can build the skin in no time. So as soon as those building blocks will be ready, I'm completely sure that you'll see decentralized applications being generated and established and growing very fast, just like Facebook groups.
Right.
In no time.
So we will not hear about Bitcoin anymore then?
Well, Bitcoin is interesting by its own, but it's just I'm more interested in Bitcoin the technology than Bitcoin.
Yeah,
the
but
coin.
basically there's certain elements in Bitcoin that have been debated that are not really not up for the task as we want it to be. So you actually want to make some sort of improved version of Bitcoin.
Right. So improve in many directions, in the economical directions, in the distribution directions, in the contribution directions, in the way that allows people to contribute. For example, in Bitcoin, just one simple example, the only action that is being rewarded with tokens is mining.
Right.
Now that's true that mining is the important action for the critical mass in terms of securing the network. That's true. But there are many other actions which are important, like coding and designing and marketing, and these are not being directly rewarded with Bitcoins. So we are trying to build a protocol, a model in which any sort of contribution, any action which is evaluated by the community is rewarded with tokens.
Right. This is a quite ambitious project.
Well, yeah.
Are you doing this alone, or is there a team, or how does it work?
There's a big team. We are roughly 15 to 20 people. 5 of us are full-time dedicated to that in the last 6 months. There's another 5 plus, maybe 5 to 7 people who are half-time dedicated, and maybe another 5 to 7 people who are contributing here or there.
Okay.
And it's growing every week. Actually, the point is that, in fact, until now, more than, I think, 60 people have joined and contributed to the project. And that's what I told you about the adoption. This kind of approach is really speaking to the heart of people, and really they immediately want to contribute, participate, purchase, download.
Because they know there's no company benefiting from it, or stakeholders.
Well, they are just part of it. Yeah,
it's
it's a free action. They are part of it. They're part of ownership also. They have stakes, real stakes in that.
So, but you use your own platform or your own technology already to reward the people that are contributing to this platform?
Right. So that's exactly what I want to say. That is, this platform was not ready and still not really ready. And actually, that's why we couldn't actually, I would say, this collaboration of 60 people couldn't be generated yet.
No.
And that's why the growth. So what I'm saying that in terms of adoption, in terms of the what the community wants, I think the organization can grow amazingly very fast.
Right.
But the missing part is the platform.
Right.
So now in parallel to building the transportation means we are building a platform for collaboration.
Right.
A decentralized platform for collaboration.
Right. And because that has to be the heart of all future developments, because otherwise you cannot reward people for contributing.
Exactly. And I'm saying that as soon as we have this platform, this organization will simply grow easily to hundreds and thousands of contributors exponentially.
Right.
And then you can achieve. I think it's hard to. I mean, it's hard to exaggerate how shifting
limitless possibilities.
I mean, it will enter a new phase. I'm saying of society where you can achieve new tasks which you can never achieve in 100 people or 50 people. Now you can achieve new tasks of 3 million people.
Right.
You can not imagine what kind of actions. And now imagine just
try. I mean, you probably use some examples, very far-fetched examples that one could use this for instead of ride-sharing. What would be a very far-fetched example that people in society could use this for? Ordinary people, this platform for contributing to the society.
Right. So endless. But let me give you a very simple example. Yeah. So a simple example is insurance.
Yeah.
There is no reason for insurance companies.
No.
And they will completely disappear in a matter of a few years, because as soon as million people gather together and insure each other with via smart contracts, I haven't mentioned, but the Bitcoin technology or the blockchain technology enables to program those smart contracts in a way that is hard-coded. So that will be far more efficient than any insurance company that you can have, and they will simply disappear. Now, why they are so much more efficient? So one thing is that you cut off the middleman.
Right.
That's true. That's clear, right?
Yeah.
This 20, 30, how many percents, you just cut it off. And that's what most people actually think about decentralized organization as the main, I would say, fruit. But I actually think this is the minor thing. The big thing is now you have 1 million, not users, 1 million contributors. Exactly. Each of them is a promoter. Each of them is a contributor. He has stakes in that. Mm-hmm. So you see the level of adoption, the level of growth will be, I think, not similar to anything seen before. So this is, I think, this is mm-hmm. really the, and also the most, maybe or even more important, is that what I said before is that in a regular company structure, you have the shareholders with one set of interests and the user with another set of interests. Here you just have a community. Right. And if you want really to try to define what is a good protocol or how should we engineer a good protocol, is the protocol that is generating a maximal alignment between people.
Okay.
That's the idea.
Right. But then still you have situation, as you talk about insurances, there's a lot of people that do not want to contribute in any way in insurances, but just want to pay for it.
Right.
So that is still possible.
That is still possible. So there are just end users.
Yeah.
And so you see, many people ask me, isn't that a pyramid scheme? Because if mm-hmm. you're first, you're earning more from and so on. And the answer is that it is a pyramid scheme, but a good pyramid scheme.
Okay.
So
it's a good Ponzi scheme.
Yeah. No, it's a good pyramid scheme. A Ponzi scheme is a bad pyramid scheme, and why? In a Ponzi scheme, the early earn from the later, earn mm-hmm. from the later, earn from the later, and the end point
pays for everything.
Just pays for everything and just lose their money. Yeah. Period. Here you have people here are contributing energy, resources, mm-hmm. time, money, and these are contributing with less risk. So they are earning more than them, which are earning more than them, which are earning more than them. It's like a pyramid, but the end point of that are simply users who never contributed to this and simply purchased the service. Right. And they are simply paying for development retroactively. Right. So these distributed tokens that you just had it from the beginning, you can think of them as potential credits which are eventually paid by the future community if established. That's the idea.
All right. So how did you come up with that?
Well, that's what we are.
Right, yeah, but still, it's a big step from just the study you did to coming here. Are you sometimes surprised by the fact what you're doing now? I mean, it was not exactly when you went to university, it was not exactly what you thought you were going to do, I think.
Right. But, well, I personally, I mean, I don't know, I personally always worked with models and, mm-hmm. and algorithms and constructions and logics, so mm-hmm. it doesn't matter if it's on string theory or economics, it's the same tools. Right. So, and I'm always, personally, again, I'm always interested in the generic rather than particular. So as soon as we understood that we have mm-hmm. an interesting model, it was then really interesting to make it a generic thing and learn from it.
But this also has some sort of an idealistic thing to it. I mean, you can debate physics and string theory, but there's not really an idealistic thing to it apart from just understanding it and wanting to know how it works. But this is different. Right.
Absolutely. I think that what I described before about the disalignment of interest is really in the heart of our economy mm-hmm. and the heart of our society. We're a divided society. So far the big paradigms, economical paradigms that we have experienced was about socialistic paradigm mm-hmm. and capitalistic paradigm. Right. And the socialistic paradigm values the togetherness, right? But but ignores the desire of individuals to succeed, to have mm-hmm. freedom, to act, and to be rewarded more if they act more. Mm-hmm. Now, capitalistic thought is really encouraging, individualism and actions and rewards for that action, but ignore of the possibility or the option of a very effective option of doing something together, which gives you much more power. So I think really that this model of decentralized organization is really a new paradigm shift into a new kind of economy, which is in some sense merging social thinking.
The best of both worlds. Yeah, it's rewarding group thinking or group action, basically.
Right, exactly. So on one hand, I'm contributing and I'm getting the tokens. Right. On the other hand, if you're doing something good, you are increasing the value of those tokens, so I'm also earning. So there is an inherent interest for us
So
to work
participation
together.
and contribution means something good for me and the community. So
Exactly.
it's not either or, but it's and.
Exactly.
And
So it's a balance between social and capital. So I think really this is you said the ideology. I think it's really a possibility for curing a lot of diseases of society.
No, but it's interesting because you see that a lot in the whole cryptocurrency and Bitcoin communities. There's a lot of people that also are not that much interested in technology only, or not interested in fiat currency or what is wrong with that, but also in society and things that are wrong in society and how to change that. So it's an interesting development there, yeah.
Right.
So just a side subject, but you're from Israel, which you said is a small country. The Netherlands is a small country as well. In here, when we talk about new technology, it's sometimes hard to develop new technology because there's current laws and situations that make it really hard to experiment with that. How is that in Israel?
So, well, it's a complicated question, but I think firstly we are trying to make this project as universal as possible. We don't see that as an Israeli project or Israeli startup, although it's true that the core team started there, but we're trying to adopt it everywhere. And to some extent it happens, it's happening. And I think also relatively Israel is quite, I would say, pro-technology country. Although specifically Bitcoin and alike are not, it's not only technology, but there is also a bias towards such technologies because they are touching the holy grail of economy.
Exactly, and government.
And government, exactly. So the two holy grails, government and economy. So it's true. I don't think. I think in Israel there is no yet a solid opinion actually even, but there is just now starting thinking about it and debating and communicating it out.
So is Bitcoin allowed in Israel?
I think it's allowed. You cannot disallow it, but you can try to tax it, for example, heavily tax it. So right now, I think there is no even a well-defined announced taxation scheme in Israel.
Okay.
I mean, there is no. So basically, you can just do whatever you think right, and then if you just found out to be wrong, you will need to pay for that later.
Okay, great. Just finishing up, going back to Lezuz, what are the next steps for Lezuz for the coming 1 or 2 years? I mean, can't look too far ahead, but
So firstly, we are now trying to wrap up some of the protocols. So the infrastructure, the protocol, the legal architecture, because we still don't have the full technology in place. Ethereum, for example. So we have to use.
Are you going to use Ethereum?
Eventually, if they come up live, I think yes, but right now we are not. So we are using a 2.0 Bitcoin platforms such as Mastercoin and Counterparty, and it makes the operation not fully decentralized by technology. So we make some detours to decentralize by legal architecture. So we build also that, and right now we are mainly focusing towards a crowd sale of Zeus tokens to open the protocols, to make the organization actually decentralized, to build the platforms, the infrastructure. Okay.
Is there a specific date when you're going to start selling these tokens? And
how are you
going to sell it?
Yeah, we are having actually, in this week we'll open a pre-sale round before the crowd sale, where we, the core team members, just sell some of our own tokens just to support further development until the crowd sale. And roughly, I believe at the end of February, we will be opening the crowd sale. More or less, and in part of that, we're also starting to develop the ride-sharing app. I haven't talked at all about transportation marketplace. It's a further vision in terms of transportation. Just imagine that you can now to one platform you can integrate all kind of applications to one platforms. So eventually, the end user just say, I want to reach from here to here. And then the system gives a multi-hop solution from with different applications.
Right, so it could be a car, and then you have to switch to a bus, and you have to switch to a train, and the last piece you have to walk, and
exactly,
that's it.
Exactly. And also,
I also can just indicate that I don't want to have a multi-hub solution because I don't like transferring. So I want to have just go to from place A to B with one.
You can filterize whatever you want, and also think now. For example, right now in the world there are 50 ride-sharing apps. Right. None of them is working. But now we can come to them and say, look, you can just integrate to that platform. Whenever you have a ride with, a user with no driver, you can broadcast that ride. Maybe
Reach
that
everybody
ride-sharing
else.
app has a driver for it. So effectively, you are generating effective database, which is the sum of all small databases.
Yeah.
Just that will make close to critical mass.
So there's going to be different platform as well.
Yeah. So that's another thing. So basically, I would say that the ride-sharing app, transportation marketplace, we call that, and the platform for collaboration, these are like the three big efforts that we are moving on.
And can you manage to build all those three things within 1-2 years? That's
I hope much less than that.
Oh, really?
I hope. So we also in touch with large investors to fundraise. We made the whole architecture for decentralized organization. In this architecture, actors or players can be individuals, but they can also be companies. Just like in Bitcoin, Coinbase, for example, an actor, but it's a company. So also in Lazuz, there will be companies. There is already one, and there will be more. And those companies, the advantage of them, one of the advantages of them, that they can also fundraise money through large investors that wouldn't like to invest in purchasing tokens, but they want to have their old world channels for investment. So we are in touch with several investors on that route as well. So I think as soon as we finish the infrastructure of protocols and fundraise enough capital to go on for, let's say, a year, I think at that point, I think we can, I believe that we can reach a working ride-sharing app and a critical mass within 6 months or so.
Oh, right.
That's my expectation, but I'm a radical optimist.
Okay.
Optimistic.
Well, you have to be, I suppose.
I have to be. But also, and in parallel, we are building this big collaborative platform, which I cannot say it can take a year, maybe. I hope. But as I said, I think the reason why it actually accelerates very fast is because these groups are growing really, really fast. Like, for example, in Lazuz now, where every week people are joining. Okay. And then now we are gradually putting out some platforms to work with, it enables more people to participate. Right. So now we are 20, for example. I believe that within a few months we will be 50. So then it accelerates exponentially because the contributors community is growing. Okay. So I'm radical optimistic.
That sounds like a very good end of the interview. Thank you very much.
Thank you.